Skimmers and cyberbees, this is internet personality Vangelus, and Maas Toys is a fresh face on the third-party transforming robot block, who debuted with a cute nugget of a toy named Skiff. Specifically, they debuted Skiff alongside his shiny sibling Gold, his TFCon buddy Volk, and their TF Nation friend Rune. For now, we're just talking Skiff, and we're also talking fan-maker involvement, product photography by TJ Kuma style, box art by Bobby Sculfa style, and instead of printed instructions, a QR code to see video instructions by Ben Piaw style. I'm totally down for ditching paperwork as long as it's clearly indicated where to go to see how the toy works. Open and play. Skiff's vehicle mode is an alien space skimmer based on the Dreamwave The War Within comic book, similar to Generation 1 Bumblebee's Cybertronian form from the first episode of The Transformers, an 80s cartoon property. The shape of Skiff's alt mode is properly half-croissant-esque, sloping down from every angle with a pleasant and moderate amount of surface-sculpted detail. The main weakness here is the nose of the vehicle, which tries really hard to not look like it's 60% robot hips. The color matching between paint and plastic is pretty solid to my naked eye, but there's enough open space around the bot mode parts to make them stick out rather than blend in. Skiff's got 4 freewheeling wheels on his vehicular underside, with plenty of clearance but a low enough profile to give the impression of hovering and or gliding. By the way, this little guy's alt mode kind of floats between a deluxe and an old-timey scout, but if you turn him sideways, he's totally got a smaller deluxe vehicular profile. Skiff's lower body folds down and spins into place as his legs unfurl, all in a short series of straightforward and uncomplicated motions, and thanks to his knees' ability to fold forward, you can, totally, get a proper Gerwalk mode, A-stance and all. I rather wish Skiff's midsection clicked into place. Similarly, I wish there was some kind of tactile lock for his backpack, which has a solid position to assume, but relies on friction to remain in place. The arms have a lot of moving parts, but are fairly straightforward to robotify, especially if you don't really care about getting the shoulder pads or forearm plate into extremely exact positions. I also don't entirely follow the instructions for this bit, as I prefer to keep the shoulders close to the upper body. The whole The War Within thing continues through to this robot mode, which is a stocky little Bumblebee type with gigantic shoulder pads! I rather wish that the back third of those panels could have hinged down to compress up a bit. The body they're attached to looks fine, with an intentional squatness and decently defined skeleton. I was worried about the arms being attached to the shoulder pads rather than the torso, but in person and with things folded up the way I folded them, there isn't much of a disconnect. Skiff's head sculpt has got a great helmet, but a lacking face. Something about the lips makes this guy look oddly aged and haggard, as opposed to the perky youthfulness I'm used to seeing on a Bumblebee type. There is an alternate faceplate and visor face included, which requires a screwdriver in order to do the swap. Damn it. At least it's got an excuse. Apparently the inclusion of the other face sculpt was a somewhat last-minute decision, as it was intended to just be used for Maas Toys' other debut piece, Gold. Hidden in the back of his cavernous shoulders are a pair of laser pistols, which plug happily into Skiff's 5mm compatible hands. I do like that the weapons not only have storage, but also don't have to leave that storage for either direction of transformation. Skiff's head's on a straight left-right swivel, and a straight-up neck hinge to look up and down. No ball socket joint, but that hinge helps a lot. The base of the neck on the transformation joint can recess a little bit as well. His shoulders are on, the main hunk of his shoulders, the arm, is on a ball socket connection. And then the transformation hinge lets you pull him down like that if you want to, but I would not do that myself. And then the way I have him transformed, there is a hinge and a ball joint in there. And so that ball joint I keep in position here and then use the ball socket joint for outwards shoulder motion. So it's like, outwards is in here, forwards and backwards is here. Then there is a bicep swivel, and a single elbow joint with a decent amount of bend, and then a wrist ball joint that lets his wrist turn left and right, and then from transformation you can also fold the wrist in like that, if you have reason to do so. Now if you have his arms transformed the regular way, then your outwards motion is, instead of the ball socket joint, it's the hinge at the top of the stick of the ball socket joint. So that gives you an easier outward arm motion, to be sure, but then his arm is also always hanging out over here, and I really prefer the slightly more integrated silhouette of the way I had it before, where I've got this bit, just the ball socket block, turned back around. He's got a waist joint. He's got, from his transformation, Useful ab crunch. I was surprised, actually, how much I was able to get this to work for me in posing this guy. Granted, another version of this guy I have who has slightly better joints, this works a lot better. And that's the thing about this dude when you get to that little midsection area. Because his hips just go forwards and backwards, and then they have a single pinned joint to go outwards. And this stuff doesn't feel tight the way I would like it to feel tight on Skiff. Now on Rune, that stuff feels fine, and I haven't messed with Volk or Gold enough to know if this is all different, but it feels like this dude, maybe being the first one done, suffered from a few little things down below. He's got dedicated thigh swivels, he's got decent 90-degree knee bend. You can use the transformation joint if you wanna, but it's bending down here, and I think that from some angles, maybe it looks okay. I don't use that for articulation, though. And his foot is on a ball socket connection, so it can kick forwards and backwards pretty well, and then you get just a little bit of tilt, just enough for some natural standing postures. I have fun posing this guy. I have a lot more fun posing this guy now that I've tried out this other arm solution, so that the shoulders feel a little bit more natural. But there are just enough moving parts and separate things in the arms that those can become a little distracting at times. Once you get over that, though, like this little dude is kicking it. And if I go in there with some floor polish to really fix up those hips and make them as rock solid as I'd like them to be, then he's gonna have it going on, baby. As a debut piece, Skiff tells me that Maas Toys is going for a playable, durable approach to transforming robot toys. Certainly a welcome direction for my own tastes, as the transformation is quick while still accomplishing enough to satisfy me. The vehicle is solid and rolls, and the robot is articulate and unfragile. The missteps are also fairly straightforward. More stuff should be tabbing and or locking together in robot mode. The shoulder design feels overly busy for what it's actually doing, and boy do I wish those hip pins were tighter. Good news from the future, on a later redeco of this toy, they are. Skiff's price of around $40 American places him in the brackets, often occupied by pocket scale stuff in the unofficial transforming robot field, and while I don't think he wows, I do think he hangs. Thing is, there are 3 other versions of him that all look better to me. Gold is shinier, Volk is more striking, and Rune is both my preferred character reference and preferred color palette. If you dig Bumblebees, The War Within, or Curvy Pancake hover cars, take a look at all the versions there are of this piece and see if one resonates with you. For as much as Skiff made me smirk, Rune made me straight up gleeful. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and I'm looking forward to the tighter and boxier designs that Maas Toys previewed over the summer's convention circuit. There are clear lessons to learn from Skiff, as well as qualities to maintain, and I'm always happy to see solid output from anybody that's riding on a different road from the masterpiece-alike highway.